Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Human Performance Outliers podcast with Zach Bitter. Welcome, everyone. If you enjoy the show, please consider subscribing on your favorite podcast listening platform and YouTube. You can now also check out the full video episode on X. Please also consider sharing your favorite episodes and leaving a review. If you do that and tag me or send me a screenshot, I will enter you in a monthly raffle for a free 30-minute consultation with me. For full episode details, including notes, timestamps, transcripts, and the show Patreon page, and other ways to support the show, please head over to my website at zachbitter.com. There you can find all my coaching services, including some new offerings for 2025. You can also sign up for my Substack newsletter, where I have been publishing my training journal weekly, as well as other topic-based posts. If you have any questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website or at hpopodcast@gmail.com. Brady, welcome back.
Thanks, Zach. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to chat about some new shoes and some use cases maybe with them.
For sure, yeah. It's been a while, I think, since the last time we did our reviews. We've tested probably dozens of shoes between us, so I think I think we're due to give the people some new shoe reviews. Some
new stuff, yep. Yeah. I think we got some fun ones too with some interesting characteristics. I was looking at just the list of stuff that you tested, we both tested, and I tested, and two that kind of stood out that I think will be fun. The Tracksmith shoe, because I think there's probably less info out about that one, and it's kind of unique with that removable insert. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking, like, what else has kind of got that same sort of idea behind it? And there's that Speedland one that we were testing out a while ago, actually, at this point. But I don't think we talked about it. The RX FPY, yeah, the road one. And they've got the removable plate, which is kind of an interesting design to be able to take that in and out and not have to commit to one or the other in the shoe. So I didn't do any efficiency testing to see what the difference is between those. Although I did see Cam Haynes was in town. He was testing shoes with Dustin to try to figure out just what shoe he wanted to wear for, I think at the time was the Boston Marathon, but then he got injured and didn't run it anyway. Yeah. But he wanted to see, like, because that shoe had just released, he wanted to see how it tested up compared to some of the top in the market. And I think that one was like maybe like just under 3% above the control. And then he also was using the Asics Metaspeed, I think, was the other one he was considering using, and that one just tests high a lot, and I think that one tested like into the 4s for him or something like that. So it was like, all right, if you're gonna eke every little bit of performance out at Boston, that's probably the shoe to wear
for sure.
But yeah, I'd be curious. Do you have a shoe you want to chat about first?
We could go with the Speedland one first. I think that one that was probably be considered one of my more surprising, like, I really like this a lot, maybe because it's just a brand I hadn't heard of, but yeah, we can go with that one first if you want.
Cool. Yeah, that one is interesting because like they came into the shoe world through the trails. So they did a lot of stuff in the trails, and their kind of initial thing was, we're gonna make something really durable that you can get like 2x the mileage out of it, but you pay a lot for it. Their shoes, I think they range between like $300-$400 for a pair. So then there was kind of like dialogue I remember around like, well, that's awesome, I can get twice as much miles, but maybe I want a new pair sooner. So you kind of had like two groups. People were like, just give me the shoe that works, holds up to anything that I really like, and then have it last as long as possible. And then people are like, I want to get a new pair of shoes every month, and if this thing lasts twice as long, it's going to cut into
It depends kind of what you're looking for. Yeah, some people like a little bit more variety. Some people who are maybe just like a one trainer type of person, like, oh yeah, I'll take this and just run it into the ground and then buy another pair.
Yeah, but what I think the thing that stood out to me with their trail line, and then this sort of carried over to the road line too, was it's just a really roomy shoe. And they have their lace system is great. You can kind of lock down the back half of the shoe really easily with the what is it called?
I think it's like the BOA system or whatever. Yeah, so if people have ever worn cycling shoes, some of them have it where you basically just twist it, and it's kind of infinite, which is nice. It's like infinitely tightenable or loosenable. Those are not words, but you can. You don't have to just like, I don't know. You don't have to use laces, which is nice, but you can basically just turn it until it fits your foot, and then dial it back to loosen it, which I really kind of enjoyed.
The BOA lace system. That's what I was failing to think of, but and I find that I took this shoe out for a few long runs, and it's Austin, so it's getting humid. And one thing I'm realizing you do a long run at Austin, part of picking the right shoe is which one is going to retain less of my sweat over the course of this run, so it doesn't feel like a brick on my foot by the end. And which one, or how does that actually fit? How does your foot fit in it at that point too? So the nice thing about BOA lacing is it is pretty easy to manipulate that. So if you want to like switch it, you're not like untying and retying, you're just like loosening and tightening pretty easily. So that was kind of nice. It's a pretty stable shoe, but one thing we were chatting about before this that I find interesting too, and people ask about like what super shoe or how should I find like a super shoe if they're looking purely for performance. And I usually tell people, think about like, here's a heuristic that can kind of get you in the right ballpark. One is, are they using a premium foam? Is it plated? Did they get it up to 40 millimeters, meaning that they exhausted like that threshold that you can't cross before the shoe becomes illegal to just really maximize performance? And then how light did they get it? So when you start deviating from those is where you start losing efficiency. So when you can get like the 40 millimeter stack, a really light shoe, Puma is a popular one, but now we have a lot of the supercritical foams that are starting to catch up with the midsole efficiency and things like that. If you can get those three things dialed in, then you're probably like up in the top side of the performance market. If you want to just kind of narrow down the sea of options that are available now. So like this one, I would say they got the premium foam. They've got the 40 millimeter stack. It's a pretty heavy shoe though. I think the 10.5 ounces. So when we look at just the top of the line performance, they're getting down into the 6 ounce range. I think some have even dipped under 6 ounces now. So it's a little heavier, which usually means it's going to be more stable. But in terms of like being the most efficient, fastest shoe on the market, you're probably going to struggle at 10.5 ounces. So my guess is people are going to love this thing for like a little bit of a faster than a normal trainer, really stable, nice and roomy, especially if you like kind of a foot-shaped toe box type of design. They've definitely have a wider toe box than most shoes are going to have, but maybe lose an efficiency point or two, percentage point or two compared to the real fast shoes out there.
Yeah, I think, if you're looking for a race day, maybe super shoe or super trainer, like maybe not what you're going to go for, like you mentioned, just because of the weight. But most of the time when I used it was sort of on a long run where I might not have been going incredibly slow, but I wanted to maybe like a up-tempo kind of long run type of thing. And I took them for several tests on those, and it performed well. I did it with and without the plate. Like you said, it has that removable plate, which I kind of enjoyed, playing around with, and it makes it a 2-in-1 type of shoe, which is nice. But for long runs, like the stability, I totally agree with. Super comfortable, and like up-tempo long run is kind of where I found the best use case for that. I probably wouldn't run in it for a race just because there are so many other lighter available options. But sometimes you just want a little bit of a heavier. I'm not looking always for the lightest shoe. I mean, I know some people sometimes do, but if it's a training run, you're not always looking for. Right. Let's just get this as light as possible. Something you want maybe a little bit heavier if you're looking to recover a little bit more, or just something a little bit more durable. Or if you're running on like the trails, this is kind of like a good trail shoe while not being actually a trail shoe.
But people who are like the fit and feel is going to be similar to their trail models too. So if someone's looking for a trail shoe, they'll get that from theirs. The other thing I always think about too is like you have that compromise between weight and stability a lot of times, and the race course and the distance is maybe going to drive how much of a compromise you're willing to take. So when you get into like ultra marathons, especially like 24-hour stuff, or even on a track because you're turning a little tighter, sometimes I think like, okay, there's probably a crossover that ranges from one person to the next before like lighter isn't necessarily better because I'm losing stability, and then my pinch point is going to come, and whatever benefit I'd get from an extra a few grams off the shoe is going to be eaten up by my lack of efficiency or my lack of stability. So like you could even have something like the course might determine that to some degree. Is it like a straight line course where you're running straight where you can get away with a little less stability in your shoe versus one that's got a lot of turning on it? Or the length of the race, how long can your lower legs kind of tolerate the wobbliness of some of the shoes you can find on the market now?
I think that's a consideration with a lot of the shoes. I know when we did our first review, we talked about the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro, and it's just like, right. So now you have to take into consideration like what kind of course you're running on, in addition to like how good is this shoe, because I would certainly never take that shoe on a track workout or something where I was turning multiple times. But if it was a point-to-point, very few turns, I might use it. So it's kind of an additional variable sometimes that people need to think of. But yeah, with this one, with the Speedland, it was like, it's very like flat. I don't find, I don't know what the heel of the toe drop was, but I felt like it just kind of like roots you into the ground almost in a way, is the best way that I can put it. It makes it feel just kind of really, it's like a very grounding-ish related shoe, and I like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that one is 33 on the forefoot and 40 on the heel. So kind of middle in terms of not as steep as you can get, but not perfectly flat either. I always think too, like, one thing I've noticed, because like I was wearing Ultra for so long, my baseline was very heavily anchored in pancake flat. So it's like, what shoes am I noticing the lift more and less on? And when you get a shoe with as wide of a footprint as the Speedland is, I notice less of the drop. And I'm not sure if that's perception or just because I've got more space on the outer sides to create balance points that make it less obvious, versus like, we'll talk about the new Puma Faster R 3 at some point here. That one is very narrow and very light. That one I noticed the drop in more, I think, just because there's also some lateral instability there that is kind of feeding into maybe the perception of all of that a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's funny how like with shoes too, you kind of have this like, I want to find the one that works for me, and then I want to find the one that kind of matches my comfort preferences too, and that's going to be the big individual side of it.
Yeah, and I think it's something I talk about a lot with people too with super shoes. You can look at the data, say which one is the best for performance in these laboratory tests, but ultimately there's a huge comfort aspect with a lot of them, because the shape in them is all different, and like sometimes you just put a shoe on and it's like, what's your visceral reaction to this? Is it, oh, this is very comfortable, or oh my gosh, like no way, this isn't going to work. So you have to balance. I think we maybe talked about this. It's like, oh, if this shoe shows you that you're the most efficient in it, but you're not going to be comfortable in it for 26 miles, then you probably shouldn't wear that on race day. Take like a percentage point hit in your efficiency for something that's going to be a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about this on the other episode or not, but when I had Dustin on, he said, like, we were talking about kind of the marketing that the brands are using, where they have like their 5K, 10K shoe, their marathon shoe and all that stuff. And he said, whatever you're the most efficient in is going to be the shoe you want to race in, if you can tolerate it.
Yep.
So like he was like, well, if you're more efficient in their marathon shoe than you are in their 5K, 10K shoe, wear the marathon shoe for the 5K, 10K. But if you're more efficient in the 5K, 10K shoe than the marathon shoe, and you can't tolerate it for a full marathon, well, it doesn't matter at that point. Then you got to go with the one that's going to get you to the finish line. So
yeah, totally. I kind of had that experience with, and I've only run one time in these, but the new the Vaporfly 4s. So I ordered them, and I had planned to run the Boston Marathon in them, and I just did a quick training run in them. I'm like, oh, this shoe's great, but there's no way 26 miles, like it's not really built for it. I just didn't feel it. So I decided not to go with it. And sure, I bet the efficiency test would have shown I was probably faster in that compared to maybe like the Alpha Fly, but maybe not over 26 miles. And so it is interesting that different companies are showing, they're marketing the shoes for different distances, where I guess some are kind of built for that, but you don't really, you could use a 5K shoe for a marathon and vice versa. I'm not really sure whether that's just a marketing gimmick or actually kind of based in the data that they have.
Yeah, I wonder, are they actually like getting in the lab and testing like employees to see like, is this something that you can tolerate for, and trying to at least get in the right ballpark for people?
I doubt it.
Probably not.
No.
A big thanks to Element, Delta G Ketones, Currents, and Maui Nui Venison for supporting the podcast. A full description of how I use these products can be found at the end of the episode. Discounts, promotions, and details can also be found in the show notes and at the end of the episode. Some links and promos for listeners from these brands include a free sample pack of the key flavors of Element by heading to drinklmnt.com/HPO. 20% off your next order of Delta G Ketones at deltagketones.com with promo code BITTER20, and Maui Nui Venison at mauinuivenison.com/bitter. Maybe let's jump into something a little more crazy. Not that the Speedland isn't crazy. It's a pretty unique shoe, but the Puma Faster Nitro Elite 3. is one that I think really made a lot of noise in the running world because their launch around Boston was just, the marketing was great. They had a lot of TV time because some of their athletes did well with it. And then they did their, what did they call it? Something 3 project.
Yeah, Project 3.
Project 3, yeah. Where they were giving, I think it was like $3,000 to groups of people who PR'd by X amount of time, 3 minutes or something like that. So great marketing behind it. And then like the big question everyone asks is like, is it actually faster? So I was kind of like watching some of this stuff, and you kind of get these early signs sometimes where it's like, okay, this elite athlete made a little bit of a jump forward. It's like Rory Linkletter ran a really great Boston Marathon. He kind of took a leap forward. So it's like, I'm sure Rory was actually in really good shape too.
Right, of course.
So you might have been ready for an update regardless, but it makes you kind of think like, okay, maybe the shoe is a little closer to, maybe got him a % or 2 efficiency. So then, Dustin actually put it through the testing protocol. And I think if I remember it, he said it was the first shoe he's tried that tested for him better than any of Nike's Zoom X foams have. And he's usually between like 4 and 4.2% in those models consistently. I think he was closer to 5.5 in the Fast R or the Faster. I still don't know exactly how you're supposed to say that. Like,
I don't either. It has a little dash in between Fast and R, so Fast R.
I've heard it both ways, but yeah.
That one makes more sense. But
yeah, so either way, so I've tried that shoe. I don't think you've tried it yet, right?
I haven't. No, okay, I've tried the Faster 2, but not the 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've done some in it. I've been careful with it because I've been rehabbing my Achilles. My Achilles is back to 100%, at least as far as I can tell. So I've been trying to play around with more shoes recently and more variety. But with this one, I did what I did was I would run in a pair of shoes that I knew I could tolerate, and then I'd finish and do an extra mile in this shoe just to kind of see what the difference was. So between Boston Marathon and Dustin doing the testing, I was doing this, and I was running. I did a ton of miles. We'll talk about this shoe too. New Balance 1080 V14. That shoe just was beautiful for my Achilles tendon. Like my Achilles tendon loved that shoe, so I just kind of leaned into it, put a ton of miles in that thing. Almost all of them in those early stages of bringing back the running. But it's one of the slowest shoes you're going to find too.
Yeah, for sure. So, for sure. No bells and whistles with that one.
Right.
It's just kind of like, it's good foam, it's comfortable, but
yeah. It's a great shoe for the right purpose.
Yeah.
And I needed it at the time. It was like, if I'm running in that shoe. So it served its purpose for that. But when I would switch out of that one into Puma's update, I was like 15, 20 seconds per mile faster at the same effort. Yeah. Like I'd change into them and immediately it was just like, I'd have to look at the watch and be like, no way, is it that much quicker? So granted, New Balance 1080 V14 is going to be slower than the Control shoe in testing. So I wouldn't expect to get like a 15, 20 second per mile improvement if I switched into this versus maybe like the Neo Zen or something like that, or something closer to the Control shoe. But it felt fast. It kind of teeters on that edge of, is this stable enough to race in for longer periods of time? It's been stress tested by some of their marathoners, so clearly some people can. I'm currently thinking about, can I do this for 100 miles? And like my guess is, if I do a course that's kind of close to Tunnel Hill 100, which is basically just straight line running, I think I can maybe make it work for that. On a track, that might be a little bit of where I'd be on razor's edge maybe from a stability standpoint. So I'd have to do some work and figure that one out a little bit more specifically. So my perception was like, this is probably the fastest shoe I've ever worn. It's also it's not as unstable as maybe the Mizuno Wave Rebellion 3, but it's probably a little less stable than like the Evos and probably Vapor and Alpha Flies 2, probably Metaspeed as well. But then, so then Dustin's testing came through, and he tested quite a bit higher in that than he did even his highest performing shoes. So at least in the lab, it's showing to be one of the fastest shoes on the market, at least for him. I'd be curious if like other athletes and when other people test it too, if they get a similar experience from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Puma had some of their own data. Maybe it was like internal, but they showed, I think, similar. It was maybe a couple % faster than the Alpha Fly or something like that. But you tested the Faster 2 though too, right? And are they kind of similar? I mean, or do you find this one to be more unstable, it's faster, but maybe less stability.
Yeah,
because they're very similar in terms of like what they look like.
They do look pretty similar. Yeah. The difference I would say is it feels lighter. It feels maybe a little less stable and a little softer. So I feel like in by soft I don't mean you're losing, like these are the super premium foams, so like it pops off the ground. But like when I kind of like rock back and forth a little bit, I feel like I can kind of like push down a little bit easier into that foam. So perception wise, I feel like it's definitely an update to the prior version. It feels a little more, the upper, you'll notice the upper's like really thin. It's like razor thin. There's hardly anything there. So if we're looking at like super shoe durability, this one's probably going to lean. This is like your Formula One car of the racing shoe world, where I don't think there's going to be a ton of use cases for it outside of running really fast. And the big question for most people is probably going to be, how long can I tolerate this shoe? And if you can get it to a marathon, it's probably going to be fast for you relative to what else is on the market. So really interesting to see what they've kind of done with that.
Yeah, I'm excited to test it because I have run in the Faster 2. I liked it a lot, and I think I'll do some training in the Faster 3 and maybe pull it out for CIM this winter. I mean, I think that would be a perfect test case for it if it turns out to be a good shoe. I was running during Boston, I was running by several with the Puma Project 3 guys, so I was just like, all around me I had all these Puma shoes. I'm like, oh, these are all the guys testing the prototypes. But I mean, it seems like an impressive shoe. I haven't put it on yet, but I have a pair outside that you just gave me, so really excited.
We'll talk about that one again on the next one, just to get a thorough assessment.
Yeah, and I would love to get in the lab though with Dustin. I'm going to try to schedule something to test, say like that against the Alpha Fly, Vaporfly 4, maybe some of the other, maybe slap on the Wave Rebellion. just for kicks.
To see.
Yeah,
that'd be interesting.
So gotta try to get in there and see if it would validate it. But based on what I experienced with the Faster 2, it ended up being one of my favorite shoes because I did find that it was just like it pops off the ground even more so compared to some of the other super shoes out there. So I had one question to ask you. This is like a divergence, but when you're thinking about an ultra, so you were talking about, I don't know if I could wear these for 100 miles, maybe depending on the course. If it was a flat course, you could wear it. Have you ever considered the idea of wearing multiple different shoes during an ultra race? So say, I'm going to wear, I don't know what your go-to racing shoe is, but my stable shoe for 80 miles. And then at the next aid station, I'm going to do a real quick transition, put on these Pumas, finish the last 20 miles in it. Yeah,
I've thought about this, and it's an option on the table for sure. Because I was thinking about that. I was thinking about what way to do it. Like, would I want to start in the more efficient one and just see how long can I tolerate? Because really the big question is, like, I won't do a training run long enough to probably get to I guess I could get to a breaking point. If I did like a 30-mile training run and I can tell already at the end of 30 miles I'm losing the value out of the shoe, then I kind of start I can probably guess about how long I'll be able to make it work. But say it feels fine through 30 and there's no sign of like degradation that would make me want to switch to a different shoe, then I'm like, okay, on race day, I'm just going to see how long I can tolerate this, but have a backup to throw on if I need it. So it's like I might get 100 out of it. Maybe I'll get 8 out of it. Maybe I'll get 60 out of it, and just try to really maximize the time spent in it. Or do I kind of do the way you said, where you start on something that's maybe a little more stable and then wait, like, okay, now I got 30 miles to go. I've done a few 30-mile long runs in that shoe. I think I can make it work for the rest of this race, and then get into something that perceptually and performance-wise probably feels better on your foot from a turnover standpoint. Because I also do hesitate to go from something that feels faster to something that feels slower, because you're dealing with just the psychological aspect of it.
When you're fatigued, putting on something heavier, you're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, if you put on something with maybe a little bit more support after 80 miles, that might be good. So the ordering is kind of interesting to think about.
But. Yeah, that's a good point, because even if it's heavier and maybe a little less pop off of it, if you feel like you regain that stability, that might give you this perception of feeling better, if that's what the breaking point had been. So but I've thought about that, and there's some precedent there. I think when Sorokin broke my world record, not his fastest time, but the first time he went under it, I want to say, if I remember right, he was on a track. I think he was wearing a pair of Hokas. I don't remember which model, for part of the race, and then he switched into Alpha Flies at some point. and was like, oh, these are way faster.
Yeah.
So like he actually did that not on purpose, I don't think, but he did it, and it worked well for him. And from there on, I think he's done almost now he's running with Adidas, so he's using, I'm sure, one of the Evo models, but a lot of his records I think all of his records were done in Alpha Flies. So yeah, so I mean there's some precedent there from switching. When there's switching too, I want to say when Camille Herron ran her furthest 24-hour, she rotated through 4 pairs of Alpha Flies or something like that. Same shoe, so you're not getting a tremendous difference outside of like, I'm not sure what the argument there was, if it was like the shoe was breaking down and they needed a fresh pair, because in 24 hours and 170 miles is a long ways.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you think about the lifespan of a shoe, I pretty much retire an Alpha Fly from racing at like 150 miles. So in that case, you're just like, if you want ultimate efficiency there, you're new pair of Alpha Flies, or just maybe like the perception, or just putting something different on. Kind of makes sense. Yeah.
That actually, you remind me of another question I wanted to ask you. Is Dustin told me with his Alpha Flies, he maintained the same efficiency up to 400 miles in a pair. So I was curious if that was if you're noticing something that is degrading on the shoe, that you want to replace it sooner than that.
I think they probably would last longer than my like 150 standard. So admittedly, I don't have like data to support that, but I almost go by the visual inspection. Like if I just hold a 200-mile Alpha Fly up next to a fresh one, you can just see that foam is like compressed. So to me, it kind of just makes sense. Like, oh, this is kind of shot. But then I just retire them to racing or training.
Sure.
So it becomes a long run shoe. It becomes a workout shoe. So admittedly, I could probably get I wouldn't go much past 250, I think. But I mean, if Dustin is seeing the same efficiency, then why not? I guess my argument might be, well, what's he doing it over? Like what time span or time frame? Like versus if I'm at 150 and then I'm going to run a marathon in it, I might just want a new pair if he's testing in the lab. But yeah, I mean, I might show similar. So I'm not sure. Not data backed. It's just kind of like what I think seems right.
Yeah,
I'm sure Nike doesn't mind that either. If I'm buying a new pair of shoes every, get like 3 races out of it, and then maybe 4 or 5. But
yeah, I'll have to ask him about that, because he could just be doing like 5 miles at a time, and there's like a week between each time, and so it's getting a little more gentle use versus hammer out long runs in it and things like that. But there's also something about getting on a starting line with a fresh pair of shoes too.
For sure. There totally is. I think Boston, when I got a new pair of Alpha Flies, so when I was lining up, they had like my shakeout run miles on them, and that was it. Which is crazy with the shoes these days. You don't need to break them in. You can just, I mean, you could. I wouldn't recommend it. Do a shakeout run or something, but you could run in them straight out of the box, especially if it's something you've run in before. So it's kind of nice to have that option. I think a lot of people in Boston did that with the Pumas because they had their pop-up shop. Yeah. It was like the day before the race. They're like, oh, I'll take those. I'm going to race in them tomorrow. Some guy even asked me about it. He goes, oh, would you recommend that? I said, I don't know. What's the harm?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could get a real bad blister and drop out, but I think he ended up setting the PR. So
worked for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll the dice somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. The other thing, I'll just share some data on that shoe too for people who are interested in that. This one's 40 millimeters in the heel, so they definitely got up to that regulatory point. 32 in the forefoot. Weight is 6 ounces for their men's. I think they did. Usually, most brands do men's size 9 and women's 7.5. For whatever reason, Puma does size 8. So they did size 8. It was 6 ounces. Maybe because they wanted to get the weight down a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure.
6 ounces though, so it's like at that like hyper light on that super shoe side of the market. And then women's 7.5 is like a 5.2 ounce. So the other interesting thing, I guess, with this shoe too was they used an ETPU midsole versus like Puma foam. So it's sort of like it helps us answer that question of like, is there variety amongst foams? Because I know when like a lot of the original super shoes came out, it kind of seemed like if you don't have Puma, you don't have a shoe. So that was one of those kind of considerations. But we've got some new stuff that's actually performing high as well. But someone was saying that the interesting thing about the shoe too was they really didn't introduce anything that was like new to the market. Like there was some new stuff on the shoe, or relatively new stuff, but nothing that had like never been used before. So it was like, it wasn't this like, oh, we've got this brand new feature that is going to now, when everyone puts this in their shoe, make things faster. It's like they found as close to what we could expect maximum performance out of our current product materials that we have.
Yeah.
So
tweaking the combinations of different stuff.
Exactly.
Like now versus adding more, you're just like, oh, what could we, different foams, different whatever plates and stuff. And yeah,
because the thought is kind of like, what is the next big jump forward? Because the brands are, especially Nike, I'm sure, in their R&Ds, they're looking at different things of like, there's going to be something that comes out where it's like, oh, it's not even, I mean, similar to the foam originally and the plating originally, where it's like, that was totally new. Like, no one had Puma foams in their shoes or carbon plates in their shoes, and now all of a sudden they did. Whereas this just kind of feels more like, all right, we took the current upgrades and just maximized what they can do. The other kind of interesting thing is they had their plate actually extends past the toe. So I guess a longer lever for propulsion maybe. I don't know to what degree that aids in the additional efficiency or none, or if it just looks kind of wild. But
yeah, it looks weird. It looks like you have like a little bottle opener or something.
Yeah, yeah. Which at the end of the race might be a good feature for
that. Yeah, if you win the race, you can celebrate and use
Pop it open.
Bottle opener. Yeah. Yeah, I think it is interesting because I think they're like, with the shoe tech, you can, lightness and weight is obviously one way to go, but I almost feel like we've reached the limit of maybe even what we want in terms of like weight. Like, I feel like at some point you go so light that it's almost, it just feels too weird. Like, I want a little bit of something on my I don't know, my foot. Like, if I'm wearing something that's 3 or 4 ounces, it's like, oh, this is kind of weird. So like 6, I mean, I feel like there's a sweet spot with weight. So I don't know if that's a variable these companies will start playing with more, or just introducing different tech. And I feel like that's probably the direction it's headed. But yeah, who knows? Stacking plates, maybe more than one, I guess.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff there. Well, and the regulations are 40 millimeters in one plate. So if they start stacking plates, we get into another topic we're going to talk about, which is illegal shoes.
Yeah.
I guess we might as well jump into that one then, because we did the Brooks Hyperion Max 3, which I got. They sent me the shoe, and I didn't know a whole lot about it. So I just like started diving in right away. And the first thing I noticed, like, oh, this got a 46 millimeter heel. It's like, so this isn't even a race legal shoe by standards, which is kind of a goofy thing, because like there's regulations, but these regulations only apply to certain people in certain circumstances. So like if the average person decided, hey, I want to wear that shoe at their local marathon, they're not going to get pulled aside.
Right.
So I guess you're like left to just determine your own moral like understanding of what you think is whatever you want to do with that. But like technically, like if I were to wear this shoe at a race and break a record, or go to a NECA national championships or something like that and get a podium position, I would have that erased because of that extra 6 millimeters, which kind of had me wondering, like, I wonder why brands are actually making shoes like this, where they aren't technically race legal, outside of maybe like kind of a cool marketing gimmick of just like, this is an illegal shoe and it's going to be faster yet because of that. And then I tried this shoe out, and it was one of the first, like, because it's a premium shoe with like their midsole foam, and I think they use Puma on this. Yeah, Puma midsole on this one. It's a little bit heavier at 9.9 ounces for that men's size 9, 8.8 ounces for the women's 8. I guess they did 8 for women on this one. But it felt really stable. So I'm like, okay, because my issue with my Achilles tendon was a lot more lateral instability. That's what was aggravating it. So when I could get a shoe that had good lateral support, I was like, okay, I can probably make this work. So this was one of the first like premium foam shoes I started putting any meaningful amount of mileage in on a consistent basis. And I started to realize it's like, oh, you know what? If you go illegal and put extra foam in here, you can add extra stability, so you don't make that compromise of stability by adding extra weight, because you probably get a little bit extra performance by building up that extra foam in there. So again, I didn't test this shoe comparatively, but my perception is if they were to make a shoe that got close to being high performance and maintain the stability due to the extra weight, it would be a design kind of like this. So like, I had a lot of fun in the shoe. I probably put a couple 100 miles in it now, just because it's the one that I've been able to tolerate. It's feels really stable. The one thing I did notice is like if I was running like a relatively steep downhill, which we have a lot of here in Austin, these like kind of steep punchy hills. It took a little getting used to that. I'm not sure. Maybe that's just because, I mean, it's a 46 millimeter,
right,
and I'm probably heel striking on a steep downhill. So I might just be noticing like that relative increase in stack when I'm running downhill, and it takes a few strides to kind of feel comfortable doing it. Yeah, my only real complaint with this shoe was, well, one, I can't wear it at a race. Two, Brooks has the narrowest toe boxes of any of the shoes I wear, and some people probably don't care about that. Me coming out of Ultra's foot shaped toe box, I noticed that probably a little bit more maybe, but it was like you definitely noticed that on this shoe. They use a really nice knit upper though, so it's one of those things where you put your foot in it, you're like, feels kind of weird up there. You start running, you really don't notice that much. At least I didn't really notice it that much while I'm running. But if I take it out for like a long run, it's like, I get a little bit of blisters, maybe a little bit of toenail stuff from it if I do a lot in it. So that's my biggest gripe. If they could I think I put a post up on Instagram. It's like if they could take the New Balance Rebel V Series toe box and put that on this shoe, it would be like the perfect shoe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Brooks, they do have some narrow stuff, and I've recently just started wearing Brooks and haven't tried the Max 3, but I've had the Max 2 and kind of like it, but you were telling me it's a lot different, so, and it looks just different completely, but, I mean, it's interesting that it's because it's marketed as like a super trainer, right? Not necessarily a racing shoe, which is kind of interesting that it's like illegal, and maybe that's kind of why they figured maybe their elites aren't going to be lining up in this. They're going to be wearing the Hyperion Elite, I guess is what their racing shoe is. And so maybe that was their thinking behind it, or maybe that we want a lot of people to wear this and it's illegal, and most people lining up for a marathon aren't concerned about if their shoes race legal or not.
Yeah, it's you could put a ton of miles in this shoe. I'm guessing that's probably their angle, is like someone wants a trainer with premium foam in it that feels stable. A lot of people will like this shoe. I think if you can get past the narrow toe box, then it's a fun shoe for sure. And the upper it's like this, because there's a lot of knit uppers on the market now, and you go from like a real kind of like static knit upper where it's like, oh, it's knit, but it really doesn't have any more give to it than a typical upper would. And then you get some that are like super flexible, like the Neo Zen. That knit upper had a lot of give to it, in my opinion. This one is kind of somewhere in between, it felt like. And I don't know if that's maybe because it's a little thicker knit, but it felt like it had enough give where I could sort of like get my foot in there and lock down the back half of the shoe really nicely, but not so much give that I felt like I'm flying up the side of the shoe when I take a turn or something like that, which was kind of nice because the value of this shoe was like the stability on that high stack height. So if it lost that due to the knit upper, then it would be unfortunate that that blend didn't match. But they did a really nice job, I think, on the upper, especially on the back half of the shoe. I felt like that one was easy to kind of grip your heel nice.
Nice, yeah. Well, I'm excited to try this one out as well.
Yeah, we'll see if you get a totally different impression. Maybe you'll hate it.
Yeah, typically the narrow toe boxes don't necessarily bother me. I feel like I wear some shoes with somewhat narrow toe boxes, so yeah, we'll see.
You might love it more than me then. Cool. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else about that one that we didn't touch on. I think we hit on pretty much all of it. Yeah, let's get into. Oh, let's do the Tracksmith shoe. That was kind of an interesting one. So this is one you wore, but I did not. So Tracksmith Eliot Racer. What did you think about that?
Yeah, so I was initially kind of a bit like skeptical just because they're a clothing company. You're like, oh, what do you know about making shoes? But yeah, they sent me a pair of these, and I wore them for the Boulder 10K, which I didn't kind of race all out, but I used it as like a tempo, which I thought would kind of be a nice way to test it. And I was actually pretty impressed. So the only, I think, downfall is if you compare that shoe to some of the other super shoes, it's very, very low profile, very low to the ground. It's not, I'm not sure what the stack height on that is, but I'm sure it's like fairly low compared to some of the other ones. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's not incredibly high stack height, but it was very responsive. I found it was probably one of the more comfortable like shoes that I've worn, and I think the vibe that it gives is sort of like you're wearing a racing flat from like the 1970s or something, but then it has the foams and the plate in there like a super shoe. So I think they're going for a lot of aesthetics with that shoe, obviously, but pretty well performing shoe. I think it's something that I'd probably wear for a 10K, maybe up to a half. Marathon wise, again, just didn't give me the stability that I really wanted, but nice upper. I mean, it felt good. Fit was comfortable, and yeah, I feel like I could have, do some speed work in it, do some tempo work in it, but I was pretty impressed with their shoe, and I hadn't tried their trainer. I know they have, I think it's just the Eliot trainer maybe or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a removable, like you said, the removable insert with there. I think that is, so the insert itself is like super thick. It's not like your standard insert that you might get from a shoe. So you could kind of like maybe swap that out if you had a custom insole or something. But I found that I kept it in because it significantly enhanced it. Basically gave the structure to the shoe. But I really enjoyed it. So I had fun running in it. I've run in it a few times since then. But yeah, it's definitely a nice speed work shoe. You could even use it as like a trainer if you wanted to. But so like responsive, but pretty low profile. So I found that my legs felt a little more beat up maybe after a race compared to wearing a normal super shoe in that one.
So with that removable piece, is that intended to be usable without that too then, or is it?
I guess not. So I say removable, but I mean you could theoretically put, say, like a different insole in there that wasn't, a couple inches thick, but I think it's intended to just be left in there. So I actually have a pair of these like performance insoles that I put in all of my shoes. And I tried putting them in there, but it felt better with their kind of native insole there. So I think it's just meant to be left in.
Okay. Yeah, because when I first saw that, I was like, are they, because it looked substantial.
It is, yeah. So, most of the insoles are just these, basically it just covers up the inside of the shoe, but this one was actually, a lot of the meat of like the shoe was in that insole.
Yeah. Did they say anything about, like, can you order on an extra pair of those, and like as you pack down the shoe a little bit, you'd slide in a new one of those? Because it seemed like it was enough where like you could make, if your shoe is holding up other than the midsole foam, then you could maybe ride it out a little longer with a new one of those versus getting a whole new pair.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's a good idea, but I'm not sure if that's available.
That's
or not.
the angle they're going with.
I would assume not. Probably they might just want you to get
a new pair.
Yeah, or just charge you the same price for the new insoles. But yeah, not sure there.
Cool. Yeah, they did. One thing I wrote down was so it's a 38 30.5 heel to forefoot, but if I put this down, it's a supercritical foam. And the actual insert is a heel of 12 millimeter and a forefoot of 22 millimeter. So it's like they put quite a bit of the midsole into that insert, which is interesting.
Yeah, and if you take the insert out and then kind of feel within the shoe, there doesn't really seem to be much. It's kind of just like the plate.
Like a racing flat,
yeah,
basically.
Exactly. It's just a racing flat. So
I wonder if people will try that.
Like, yeah, maybe. I mean, if you just wanted to use it as like a trainer or just something like that, it might work. So it's kind of an interesting aspect of it. Makes it a little bit of a unique shoe, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Very cool. Yeah, it's interesting to see Tracksmith jump into the shoe world and do some stuff. We talked about Brooks a little bit. Did you do anything in the Launch 11?
Yes, I actually did a couple runs in the Launch 11, and that one it was nice, but it was kind of like one of those unimpressive shoes where it's not. I didn't put it on and go on the run and like, oh, this is the most comfortable thing. It's kind of this shoe. If you want like a trainer that's a workhorse that's going to be good for anything, this is probably your shoe. I hadn't run in until we got some of these to test. I hadn't run in Brooks probably since high school, I think. So obviously they're the DNA foam and stuff in there, I think is an upgrade from whatever they had. I think I ran in like one of the early versions of the same shoe, but so I liked it, but just overall underwhelming. But that doesn't mean not in like a bad way. Like it's a great shoe, just your everyday trainer.
Yeah. I was trying to think of like. Because there's a few shoes, like I would say we'll talk about the On Cloudsurfer II, where I was trying to think of how do you describe a shoe like this nowadays? Because it's like, it's a shoe, it's fine, but there's really nothing that jumps out at you with it. So then you get into the world of like, do I want a shoe that has like more of a baseline from a performance standpoint, similar to what you would traditionally get, just to kind of like remind yourself what your data is showing with your super shoes versus what it would have been historically. and then just a shoe that can kind of tolerate a good chunk of mileage. So
I try to convince myself of that, but then I put myself in the mindset where I'm like, oh, I need a shoe like the Launch where it's just I can go do it every day and it's kind of like my baseline shoe. But then I'm like, why? We have all these exciting shoes, so why would I not run in one of those every day? So I don't really know how to approach that. It's like your shoe. This is the shoe that 10, 15 years ago, every shoe was kind of like. And you just put them on and you're like, oh, this is a running shoe. Mm-hmm. But now it's just like, when you put on a shoe, you expect something a little extra there. And so I think our maybe perception of what we want out of a shoe, you put on something like the Launch, it's a fantastic shoe, but it's just not giving you that extra excitement or unique. You got some unique bells and whistles compared to some of the other stuff you're gonna wear.
It's just like you said. I think it's kind of like an old school shoe, sort of, with that sort of stuff. I actually wonder. I think the broader topic is with those type of shoes, if we're gonna see a whole lot more of them in the future, if they're gonna get phased out to some degree. Maybe not, because I mean, there's also price point to consider, and when you start getting a lot of the really nice foams, you start usually getting up into close to a couple $100s for a pair. So it's like, does someone want to get a shoe that's maybe $130? Then they're probably going to $140. They might be able to get that with something like the Launch. But then again, you have Mizuno's Neo Zen. I keep going back to that one, but it's like that foam is great. Like it's probably not necessarily going to test a ton faster than like the Brooks Launch, I wouldn't guess, maybe a little bit. But it feels awesome compared to it.
It does. It feels so good. I mean, that shoe is still one of our favorites, I think.
Yeah.
We'll keep going back to it. But
so it's just one of those things where it's like, I wonder if like the future of shoes are going to be to the point where now all of a sudden, like, you just don't see a whole lot of shoes like that where you get that sort of fit and feel of what the old thing was. Because what were the specs on the Launch? Because there's a 35 millimeter heel, 27 millimeter forefoot, so it's not even like they're like, okay, here's your low profile. I mean, low relative to 40, very low, I would guess, relative to 46 when you're talking about the Hyperion. But yeah, generally speaking, like if we go back to even old school shoes, 35 millimeter heel would be a pretty big heel. So they're not really giving you that with it either. So, but yeah, I suspect it's gonna be pretty durable. I wore this shoe quite a few times actually in combination with Hyperion Max 3, and I will say, like, every morning I put this shoe on instead. I was like, oh, this isn't going to be quite as much fun. So
I found it just to be a little stiff, not as like bouncy maybe, which I guess is good sometimes, but it was kind of like rigid maybe compared to some of the other ones, and I just prefer a little more bounce. And so again, I think everybody likes something different. Some people want something that just like, I can't bend this thing when I try to, so maybe that's what they want. But the price point thing's an interesting aspect. I think every brand needs to keep we have our whole line of premium stuff, and it's like, hey, this shoe is going to be $100 always, for the Launch fans from, decades ago, and they can continue to come back to it. Yeah,
for sure. And I guess we might as well jump into the Cloudsurfer II then. So this one, pretty similar from like pretty similar for me, I thought, in terms of just fit, feel. I mean, even the stack height, 37 millimeters, 28 millimeter forefoot. What was the weight? I guess 8.3 ounces and 7.2 for the Brooks Launch. And then 9, and they didn't list the women's, 9 ounces, 255 grams for the men's 9 on the Cloudsurfer. So pretty similar. Like, yeah, I just think that one was probably another one that's kind of similar to it, where like if you like an old school trainer, then it's kind of just like finding the one that works for you and just loading it up on miles. But again, I don't think anything stood out to me with this one where it was like, all right, this shoe has this feature that is going to separate it from the Launch 11 in a big way, or any of these other kind of more traditional shoes.
I would agree with that one too. And man, On is like a brand of shoes that I want to like, but I've tried so many pairs now, and I just
can't get behind it.
I just can't get to them. I don't want to lose our, On keep sending us the test, but like
they need to send us one of their higher performing ones. Then
the models that I've tried, I've just been so unimpressed with, and like I went in one run in, and I was just like, viscerally, it's one of those shoes that just didn't feel good to me, and so I kind of just didn't run in it much or give it any maybe like second tries. So And again, maybe it's it was kind of like like the launch. It's just it's your traditional trainer, but I think too for me it maybe just be something with like the system that they use and the structure of the underneath of the shoe, where it's a little bit, the patterning is different and it's built a little bit different than some of the other shoes, and I just couldn't really get behind it.
Yeah. I asked some people what they thought, and they, On has kind of a following of people that kind of like their stuff.
They
and
do, yep.
And the group that was kind of like On fans, like, oh yeah, I like it. It's just reliable. Like, they know what they're getting out of it. Maybe it's just like maybe if you're looking for something that's not going to change drastically, and you liked it, then some people look for that too, where like an update comes out and it's kind of a new shoe and they're just like furious and they start buying up the old models.
Yeah.
Like, so I think there's maybe something there where it sort of has some similarities to some prior models that just work kind of similarly, and people were just like, okay, cool, I'm not like drastically changing anything, because at the end of the day, runners are probably more worried about anything is getting injured and
for sure
not being able to run. So if they perceive a shoe is going to get them that, then they're going to stick with it for the most part.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing that I think we talked about this last time a little bit was just like doing a shoe that was a little bit older that was now on sale. So people are like, okay, I want to get a shoe that is maybe even under $100. And like what would be a good one to chat about with that? So this just kind of fell in my lap, given that New Balance sent us the Rebel V4s, and then like they updated to the V5 shortly thereafter. So that shoe immediately went from I think $140 to like I think like $97 or something like that on the website. So I was like, okay, well this was kind of an interesting enough shoe where it's probably fun to talk about it. I don't know that the V5 changed drastically. But
I hope it does.
You do? Okay, good. We'll get some contrast here maybe. Although I'll say this, when I got the shoe, I put it on my foot, and I'm like, okay, I really want to love this shoe because it fit my foot perfectly. It was like, all right, the front would fit. It like molded my shoe perfectly. I could lock it down the back. It flared up enough in the front where I felt like I had space. I was like, I really hope I like this shoe. And then I don't know if my expectation was that it was going to have more pop, but it just kind of felt flat. Like I felt like I can't really get the same, because like some shoes you put on and you almost feel like you got to put the brakes on them. This one felt like I had to like really try to hammer in the shoe to kind of get it to go fast. Like it's like that lawnmower where you have to pull that ripcord like 3 or 4 times before it starts going. That's kind of how it felt to me. So it was like, I would say maybe because it fit my foot well, it stood out compared to like the Brooks launch or the On Cloudsurfer. But from a performance standpoint, I don't know that I'd put it in that much different of a category.
I mean, pretty much what you just said is my exact feelings on it. So I put it on, probably one of the most comfortable shoes I've ever put on. I was like, oh, I love this. Like I wish I could wear this all day. And then I wanted to like it so bad, and I took it on, several runs, and I basically came to the conclusion like the only run type that I would use this for is like a 5 to 7 mile easy recovery run, because it did look like it required a lot more effort to run that shoe than some of the other ones. Like you said, it didn't give me anything. It was just it felt like a racing flat almost, some of the older ones without as much like pop. So yeah, it was one of those other shoes I wanted to love because I liked how it looked, which obviously doesn't matter, but you want a shoe that looks cool. I thought it looked cool. It felt so good, but just didn't give me what I was looking for like the performance perspective. It's like this would be a great recovery shoe, but then even then there were other a little bit more cushier shoes that I would use for recovery. So I didn't see like many use cases for it, and so that one fell kind of flat, pun intended. So that's why I was saying I hope the V5, it looks a little bit different, but I'm not sure if they've changed anything. So maybe we'll have to read some reviews or test them out ourselves, I guess, to see if there's a comparison. But and I wouldn't recommend, I think people, try it on your own, but it's a very comfortable shoe, and it can be kind of like a all-around trainer, like you said, if you're looking for something that's $100 price point and you just want to try something out. I say go for it. New Balance is a great brand, but yeah, wasn't impressed with that shoe either. Yeah, and in their defense, I guess too, it's not meant to be their high-performing shoe. It's a 34 heel, 28 forefoot. I mean, they did use Puma foam in there, but it was like a real firm version of it.
7.5 ounces. I had it I think they categorize as like a session, a lightweight trainer, or a session shoe, or something like that. Which I would say session is stretching it a little bit. You know, where I liked it was I would do a long run on like a Saturday, and then I would have been like, it'd be like a humid morning, as it almost always is this time of year. I just get out of the Hyperion Max 3s. My toes are a little more sensitive than they normally would. And I was like, oh, this feels nice. And I don't really care how slow I am today. So
yeah, definitely a good use case, I think, for sure. But, and I guess that, you know, if they're meaning for it to be a session shoe, or like it fits probably the purpose that they meant it for, and they have plenty of other models like the Super Comp Trainer. Love that one, and I think we'll talk about the 1080 probably. So, so I think it's a good shoe if you want to have a rotation and really are like, this is an easy day shoe only. I think it would, you know, be a good shoe for that.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be people who like it, I think, just from the fit, the way it fits.
I've seen a lot of people wearing it. I mean, you go running around Town Lake, I've seen a lot of people wearing it, so it has a following, I guess. Yeah.
Cool. Then I think the only other new one we had was the New Balance 1080, which I sort of talked about a little bit.
Yeah, the 1080 was the one I liked as well. That kind of surprised me, and I don't think up to that shoe I've ever run almost in a New Balance, maybe like in junior high or something. But I love the foam on that, and like you said, I guess it's not, you know, they don't market it as like, oh, it's your super trainer, your super racer, but I found it to be very bouncy, and like I took it for several runs, some long runs, some runs around the lake, and like it can get fast. It takes a little bit of time to like work into that, but like very responsive, and just I like the amount of cushion under it, and that fresh foam that they have was something I enjoyed a lot. So that's actually been one of my favorite shoes, and kind of was surprised at how much I actually ended up enjoying it.
Yeah, this was one where I would say, like, if I were to envision where I think the shoe world is going, where kind of we were saying before, like shoes like the Launch 11 and Cloudsurfer maybe start kind of phasing out a little bit, this is the type of shoe I would imagine it replaces, because it's still kind of like, you know, kind of a recovery, maybe a trainer, but it has things that stand out to me. Like there's different things about this shoe where I could say, like, if I put this on my foot versus something else that's in that category of like, I'm just gonna load some miles up on this, I'm not gonna take it to track and do my intervals or anything like that, or race in it necessarily. It has features that are like, okay, this makes this one unique. Again, like New Balance, I like their toe box quite a bit, so like I got that same kind of experience as I did with the Rebel 4 V4, where it's like, okay, this feels really nice up front. Had the added benefit, they caught me at the perfect time, because it was like when I first started running after my Achilles injury, I was like, okay, I gotta find, because what they tell you with Achilles stuff is find a shoe that works and don't change it, like as you're rehabbing it. Like you don't want variety. I was like, great, we're testing shoes, and now I can wear one shoe. So like for like, I think it was maybe 2.5 or 3 weeks, I was wearing basically nothing but the 1080 V14. And the reason is because like it felt really stable laterally on my Achilles. Like it was like night and day too. I went out for a run one day, and I was like, I can still kind of feel it. And the next day I put this shoe on and went out, didn't feel it at all. And it was just like every run I would do in that. And then I even phased in another shoe a couple times periodically in those next couple of weeks, and this was still pretty early on in the rehab process, and I could notice a difference. So I'm like, at that point, after having like 2 or 3 shots at kind of comparing and contrasting, I was like, okay, that's the shoe. This is the one that's going to let me run. I don't care how slow it is. It's just, if I'm running, this is my options right now. So so I loaded that thing up with quite a bit of miles. But yeah, that the fresh foam, it just feels nice and soft. It feels you know, it feels like a good trainer to me, a good recovery shoe, a good trainer. Yeah, what is it? 38 millimeters at the heel, 32 at the forefoot. It's a beefy shoe, 10.5 ounces.
Yeah, it's very plush. That's the way I would describe it, but not in a bad way. Like that's kind of sometimes what you're looking for. Like it doesn't have this super thin, like sock-like upper, but it's just this very plush, cushiony shoe, and sometimes that's what you want.
It was another thing I did notice about this shoe too is there are some shoes where they feel kind of slow, but as you speed up, they maybe gain a little bit of relative efficiency. So I don't know if they blended this one with an EVA and PIBA. So maybe it was something where like once you got enough force into that foam, you started noticing a little bit more. where I felt like, okay, this shoe's not going to give me any performance. It's just going to be all comfort. But then when I hit a certain intensity, it would be like, now I feel like it's maybe relative to the shoe itself a little bit better at faster paces. So whether you completely exclude it from any sort of speed work is maybe user decision at that point, but, or maybe you're like me and you had no choice at the time.
Yeah.
But
you definitely run fast in it for sure.
Yeah. If I were to pick a shoe out of the group we reviewed where it was like, all right, I'm not looking for the performance side of things, but I'm looking for something that can take a lot of miles, feels good, it's fun to run in, this would definitely be on the short list.
I think, that would be mine too. This fits into kind of the category of maybe the Neo Zen, where it's like, if you said you have one shoe that you're going to train in this entire year, that would probably be part of the list.
Yeah.
Because it can fit kind of whatever. I don't want to necessarily do a speed session in it, but I could if I had to. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about it too, because it's noticeably feels different than the Neo Zen, but they sort of have the same purpose. So like I think I like that, where you can have like some variance there, where it's like if I want a shoe that has a little more play in terms of like how my foot works, my lower legs work, I'm going in the Neo Zen. If I want a shoe that's going to basically like support that lower foot complex in its entirety, then I'm going to be going with that New Balance 1080. But they both kind of have some of those features that stand out despite not being like your racing shoe. So cool. One other thing I'll quick share too is we talked about the last one. Like I've been trying to pick a shoe that I put a ton of miles on just to give it like a durability test. So I think technically after, I think it was on Wednesday, I did a 50 mile. I think I got the Neo Zen up to 450 miles now. So I would say that's beyond the threshold of what I would typically expect to get out of a shoe nowadays. And then you can ask, like, well, is the thing tattered?
Right.
Because it's like you can take any shoe to 450 miles if you want. Right.
Yeah. It's got a hole in the side.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it was interesting. Like I kept waiting for that foam to break down, and it just feels the same. Like it hasn't felt like, okay, this shoe's different now when I step into it, when I take those first few steps as I get going through my gait cycle, as it did. Granted, if I put on a new pair, maybe I would notice some small variances, but I've put enough miles on it where I feel pretty comfortable about what the experience is with that shoe. So if you're looking for a shoe that kind of can be pretty durable, I think it would stand up to that. The thing that's wearing the quickest on it to me is part of the outsole on, I think it's my left shoe, my left side is worn down a little bit, kind of near the front part of the back half of the heel, which I think might just be the hills in Austin. We were talking about that before. If I'm running on the right side of the road, I'm getting a little bit more action on that. Because I was curious, like, I wonder why. I mean, I could just have something different with my gait on that side of the foot too, or on that side versus my right side that's causing that side to wear down a little bit faster. But that's probably specific to me. But anything, I guess if I'm getting any sort of information that's useful to the user here, is like the thing that seems to be wearing maybe the quickest on it is the outsole. But 450 miles, none of the outsole that is like a really important impact point kind of up on the forefoot or anything like that is really worn in any meaningful degree where I would say, okay, this shoe's starting to cause problems now because of it. So I guess I got to keep wearing it if we want to really fail.
Yeah.
But
take it to failure. I think that was your initial goal with it too.
We'll have to wait till the third one to see if I can officially break the shoe.
Yeah. So my kind of one in that category, I mean, I would agree, kind of my sentiments are the same about the Neo Zen. I don't have quite as many miles on that one, but I recently surpassed 400 on the Zoom Fly 6s. That one is just still poppy, still fast. Anytime, I mean, if I go on any run in that shoe, and granted, it does have a plate in there. It's not the Alpha Fly level kind of, but it's their super trainer, and I put that thing on and I'm running 15, 20 seconds per mile faster on just like training runs, and it's held up very well. Like I can't really, I mean, I have to look at the wear patterns, but I certainly haven't broken the shoe yet, and 400 miles is, well past what I put on a lot of the stuff. So that one kind of goes in my bucket of like, if you want, it's the all-around shoe. It's certainly faster than probably any other trainer out there, I think, and just like the durability is surprising me, because I figured being a super trainer, having the play, it's going to like wear down 250 or whatever, but recently got past 400 on that, and it's not showing any signs of, I probably can squeeze another 150, 200 out of it probably. So
nice.
Very impressed with it.
Do you find like when you're in that shoe versus like the Alpha Fly, do you notice like a little bit reduction in performance just perceptually? Or is it really hard to tell?
It's kind of hard to tell. The Zoom Fly is one of those you were describing before. Some of these shoes you feel like you need to put the brakes on. I kind of feel like that too. Like if I wear that on a easy day when it's supposed to be easy, I find that it ends up being way too fast. Yeah. Once you just start going, it's like it's propelling you forward versus. So you gotta be a little bit safer with running in that shoe, or a little bit more cautious because it'll cause you to speed up. I mean, I would say there's a noticeable difference between the Alpha Fly and that, but it's not insane. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people who are like, they race in the Zoom Fly, even though it's a trainer, because it's got similar effects. But I still notice a bump when I go from that to the Alpha Fly for sure.
Does it feel a lot more stable?
It's more stable, yeah.
Okay.
It's wider. That one actually has the toe box in that one, as opposed to some of the other Nikes, is actually pretty wide, and it's really not. I don't think it's that light of a shoe. I'd have to look up how much it weighs, but it's not too light of a shoe. But it's certainly a little bit more stable than the Alpha Fly. You're not wobbling back and forth on it.
Yeah, I don't think I have that one.
But when you're running
in,
you hear that similar. When you see a group of runners like in the Alpha Fly, it sounds like galloping horses. You kind of get that same feeling or that same sound when you're running in the Zoom Fly. But it's been one of my favorite shoes, so I'm definitely I got to buy a new pair soon, probably, before these ones do run out. But
my antenna goes up when I hear like the super trainers that feel relatively close to the racers, because it's like, okay, there's probably an element of stability there, and I'm like, okay, if it's like even close, then maybe this is like something to consider for like a long ultra where stability becomes more important.
Totally. I think for an ultra shoe, that seems like it could be a good option, where like the Alpha Fly might be a little too unstable for you. This one, I think you should maybe
play around with that one.
Might be a good option for you.
All right, cool. So I think that it was just about all of it. For listeners who are curious, I'll have like shoe cards with some of the specs that we talked about if you want to have like a resource to use while you're listening. I guess I probably should have said it. Maybe I'll add an intro to this and tell them before that. So if they want to hop on Instagram and check those out, I'll put that up before the episode releases. But I think that's it. I don't think I'm missing anything other than training's going well for CIM.
Yeah, it's going well. I got past whatever ailment was like post Boston. Kind of just like went away. I don't know. I mean, I was doing some PT and stuff, but I was dealing with a little hip glute injury and just kind of like trained through it a little bit, back down some, and now I have zero pain. So gonna start. I've been kind of embracing this just really unstructured kind of training during the summer. I'm just do whatever volume I can. Like, let's ride the bike a lot. Let's just run 4 or 5 days a week, as many miles as I can, and I'll probably start some speed maybe in August. But I'm kind of just trying to be. I don't know. Typically, I do a 12-week build for a marathon, which is a lot shorter than maybe some people do. But I kind of find I'm just like, if I have a great baseline fitness going into it, use those 12 weeks to sharpen. Let's see what we can do at CIM. And I think the goal there, will be, I'd like to go 220. I think it would be nice. And I think I'm in better shape. I don't think I lost a lot from Boston. So we'll see. But that'll kind of be the goal. And if these Puma Faster 3s are
who knows?
Worth what everybody's saying, then maybe I can actually do it. So
that'll be cool to see. Yeah. That'll be cool to see for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What's next for you?
So I just got to a point where I'm like, all right, at least from a timeline standpoint, I can start thinking about a race. So I'm going to do a flat, runnable 100-miler. I'm kind of on the fence between Tunnel Hill and Canal Corridor. The benefit of Canal Corridor is it is a Western States qualifier. So within the timeline, so like if I do that one, I can enter the lottery for Western States. If I don't, then I won't have a qualifier, so then I can't enter the lottery. I'll have like a 1% chance of getting in either way. So it's like I'm probably not going to make that the determining variable, but it is one I'm considering. Both those courses have a pretty similar play to them. They're both like real flat, kind of rails to trails type of courses, crushed limestone. I think Canal Corridor has like 1,000 feet of total elevation gain over 100 miles. Tunnel Hill's maybe got a little bit more, but it's all like congested into this like one little spot.
Right.
And the weather's like almost perfect there every year. So, part of me wants to go to Tunnel Hill because it's like there's Charlie Lawrence is going after the 100K world record there this year, which would just be kind of cool to be there.
For sure.
Des Linden's running the 50 mile there this year, so it'd be cool to see that happen. Yeah, so, and I've been there a couple times. I know what I'm getting out of that one too, and I do feel like I've got a faster day on that course than I've put out in the past, so it'd be kind of fun to like improve on that if I can get there. But yeah, it's gonna be a fast 100 miler at some point. Oh, I should say the other advantage of Canal Corridors is a little bit earlier. So the hard part with Tunnel Hill's too close to Javelina, and it's too close. It's too close to Desert Solstice to really kind of say like, all right, I'm going to try to do both of these realistically. Canal Corridor is a little bit earlier, so if I did decide, all right, that went awesome, or maybe it didn't, I want to try to squeeze in another race, I could probably justify Desert Solstice if I did it that way. So those are the ideas in my head at the moment, but
either way, it's good to see you back and running.
Yeah, no, it feels good. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Brady, where can people find you?
Yeah, so on X is where I'm kind of most active, B_Holmer. And then I write a newsletter, Physiologically Speaking, so you can just go to physiologicallyspeaking.com. That's my Substack. And I also I've started another newsletter. I didn't start it, I inherited it, but it's called Run Long, Run Healthy. So
cool.
People listening to this podcast will be interested. It's basically every week I'll take like 5 or 6 studies on anything. Basically, how can you run faster? How can you run stronger? Interesting stuff related to running specifically. And I kind of just do brief breakdowns of it, so not really deep dives, but that goes out weekly as well. I inherited that from Amby Burfoot, so 1968 Boston.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I saw you did a podcast with him.
He wrote that for probably several years, and then he basically retired from that. And him and Thomas Watson, CEO of Marathon Handbook, they were like, hey, we like your writing, want to take this over? And I said, oh, sure, what's another newsletter?
Right.
But it's fun. It kind of scratches that itch, because with my Substack, I don't always write about running stuff. It's like anything science is kind of fair game. But with this, it's every week I'm just diving into stuff on running. And so could be about durability, could be about super shoes, could be about fueling. So that one's been fun. And so Run Long, Run Healthy, if people Google that, you can probably figure out.
But that one's not housed on Substack. That one's on a website.
That one is too. It's on
it is?
Substack,
Okay.
so you could sign up for both. It also goes out like a couple other platforms. We send it out on Medium too, in that it also goes out through the Marathon Handbook newsletter. So people could find it multiple ways, but Substack might be the best way if you just want to sign up for that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll link all that stuff to the show notes. I'm sure like people want to read some of that stuff. It's your Substack's great, so
appreciate it.
It's always fun to share that.
Yep. Thanks, Zach.
Awesome, Brady. Well, we'll have to record some more shoes once you beat up a few pairs that
Absolutely.
I just gave you.
Got a whole bag out there, so my wife's gonna be mad that I'm coming home with more stuff. We move into a new house tomorrow.
Throw one. Yeah, that's right. You're moving too. In the
She's
same.
making me throw away a pair for every new pair I get. But,
yeah.
Or something. I typically find a way to get around that rule.
Well, if the new house is bigger, she's got to switch to it.
We're getting like twice
Get two,
the
throw
space,
one
so,
away.
I mean,
you get it's a 2-for-1 keep and throw away
the
now.
guest room can just be for shoes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for some time.
Thanks, Zach. This was great.
All right, take care.
Yep.
Thanks for sticking around and listening to how I use the show sponsors. Maui Nui Venison is a product I discovered last year. What caught my eye was their quality and business model. They have paired the need to manage an invasive species with providing some of the most nutrient-dense meat you will find. The axis deer arrived in Maui in single digits but grew fast and have damaged the local ecosystem, and if left unchecked are projected to reach up to 200,000 in number in future years. Maui Nui decided to solve this problem and minimize waste. Axis deer meat provides 43% of your daily value of protein in just 107 calories and boasts a 1.5 to 1 omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, which is the most balanced ratio of any red meat. This same 107 calories provides 22% of your daily value of vitamins and 37% of your daily value of minerals. They have a wide range of products including ground venison, leg medallions, rib chops, strip loin fillets, and loin chops. They also make a beef stick that includes an option with organ meats, which makes a perfect protein-packed snack that I will usually have in the afternoon before a strength session. I've also been enjoying the ground venison for dinner, usually paired with steamed vegetables or a sweet potato. You can find a bunch of recipes and ways to prepare their products on their website at mauinuivenison.com. Element Electrolytes is my go-to electrolyte supplement. Based on my electrolyte loss rate of 614 milligrams per liter, I begin my day with half a packet of one of their hot beverage flavors with my morning coffee. I rotate through all of them, but my favorite at the moment is the chocolate mint. Later in the day, I have been having either a packet of their watermelon flavor or a can of Element Sparkling, which is their carbonated electrolyte drink. I usually have the black cherry lime or watermelon flavor for those. If you are curious about how to dial in your own fluid and electrolyte setup, check out episode 300 of this podcast, where I dive into some of the things you can do at home to gauge how much fluid and electrolytes you may need. A free sample pack with your first purchase can be found at drinklmnt.com/HPO. Delta G ketones is the best researched exogenous ketone supplement on the market. The research on exogenous ketones is constantly evolving. Delta G is responsible for much of it, hosting 50 plus published studies and 20 plus ongoing studies, and have received DARPA grants designed for special forces. Delta G uses ketone esters, which is unmatched in raising blood ketone levels when matched per gram. The best use case, as the evidence currently stands, is as a post-workout supplement for better recovery and or during longer, lower intensity sessions to help with mental focus. For this reason, I will have a bottle of Delta G Performance, that's the little blue bottle, after my biggest workouts for the week and during long run training sessions once I have been out running for about 45 to 60 minutes. Head over to deltagketones.com and enter BITTER20 for 20% off your next purchase. Currents, which is spelled Curranz, is a pre-workout supplement that I started using this year based on the mounting evidence that has started pointing towards them as being a potential endurance workout supplement that can help move the needle on things like recovery, blood flow, fat oxidation rate, reduce muscle damage, etc. They have 40 plus studies on their website if you want to check those out. The way I use this product is when I wake up in the morning, I usually have a cup of coffee and some electrolytes and just start my day getting hydrated. And while I'm doing that, I'll have a couple capsules of Currents along with that. And then I get out for my first workout. If I'm doing something a little bit longer, like a really long ultra-specific long run or an ultra-marathon race or something like that, where I'm going to be out there for multiple hours, I'll usually have another capsule or two every 4 hours while out there doing that. So I'm excited to see what this can possibly do for some of the races I got coming up this year. If you want to check them out and some of the research that they have, head over to currantsusa.com. That's CURRANZUSA.com. And don't forget to plug in the promo code BITTER20DEAL, which will get you 20% off your first purchase. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Human Performance Outliers podcast with Zach Bitter.